Imagine yourself in a world where challenges seem to grow every day, like mountains rising unexpectedly in your path. Now, imagine yourself carrying a backpack full of insecurities, so heavy that it crushes any hope of moving forward. This was Sophia's world. She was talented, yes, but every step she took seemed to sink her deeper into a sea of doubts and fears. Unemployment hit like a punch in the stomach, stealing the breath she needed to breathe and leaving her at the mercy of anxiety, which became a constant, cruel and relentless companion. Sophia looked in the mirror and saw a person she knew had potential, but whose confidence was in ruins, like a house of cards collapsing with the slightest breath. To her, the future seemed like an endless road of frustration and fear. And every time she tried to lift her head, it was as if an invisible force pulled her back to the ground, telling her it wasn't worth continuing. But in that darkness, something began to change. A small spark of resistance, almost imperceptible, began to shine in her heart. Sophia knew that continuing to live in fear was no longer an option. She realized that if she wanted to transform her life, she had to start from within. It was at this moment, at the lowest point of her journey, that Sophia made the decision that would change everything. She chose to face her biggest fears and promised herself that failure would no longer define her. Little did she know that with that first step, she was beginning to build the foundation of a new life, where confidence would be her greatest ally, and opportunities once distant would now be within her reach. With the decision made, Sophia knew that there was no easy path ahead. The change she so longed for wouldn't come overnight. But instead of drowning in anxiety again, she decided to focus on what she could control. The first challenge she faced was silencing that inner voice that always told her she wasn't good enough. Sophia began to rewrite the narrative in her mind. Each time fear arose, she challenged it by asking herself, what if I succeed? What if this time things are different? And so, with these small but powerful questions, she began to transform her mindset. As she took the first step, Sophia realized that the journey wouldn't be about big leaps, but rather about small daily advances. Each new day was an opportunity to face a fear, to win a small internal battle. She committed to seeing each obstacle as a chance to grow, not as an insurmountable barrier. And so, day by day, she began to strengthen her wings, like a butterfly preparing for flight. The path was still full of stones, and falls were inevitable. But now, instead of seeing falls as defeats, Sophia began to see them as lessons. She started to understand that each stumble brought with it a valuable lesson, and that each failure was just one more step towards success. This new perspective transformed how she saw the world around her. Doors that once seemed locked began to crack open, revealing opportunities that once seemed impossible. Sophia discovered that self-confidence wasn't something magical, reserved for a few, but rather a skill that anyone can develop with effort and determination. She realized that every small victory, no matter how insignificant it seemed, was a brick in building a new version of herself, stronger and more confident. And with this newfound strength, she began to attract new possibilities into her life, proving that when you truly believe in yourself, the world around you starts to believe too. As days went by, Sophia began to notice something extraordinary. The people around her were changing too. Not because the world had become easier, but because the new Sophia radiated a quiet confidence, an inner strength that inspired everyone who crossed her path. Friends and family who once saw her as fragile and insecure now saw her as a leader, someone who was on a journey of real and tangible transformation. And this transformation did not go unnoticed. Gradually, opportunities began to emerge from unexpected places. One ordinary afternoon, while reviewing old notes of her forgotten ideas and dreams, Sophia received an invitation for a job interview. It was a golden opportunity at a company she had always admired, but years ago wouldn't have dared to apply to. Now, with the new mindset she had cultivated, she not only accepted the challenge, but prepared herself with relentless determination. Instead of focusing on her weaknesses, Sophia decided to highlight her strengths, showing everything she had learned on her journey of self-discovery and growth. On the day of the interview, Sophia walked into the room with an air of confidence that couldn't be ignored. She was no longer the same person who saw herself as insufficient. And this was evident in every answer she gave, in every assured look she exchanged with the interviewers. They weren't just interviewing a candidate, they were meeting a woman who had risen from the ashes of her own insecurities and was now ready to take on any challenge that came her way. When the phone rang a few days later, confirming that she had gotten the job, Sophia couldn't hold back the tears. It wasn't just a professional victory. It was the confirmation that everything she had faced, every fear overcome, every step taken had been worth it. But above all, it was proof that the change she sought was indeed within her, waiting to be discovered and unleashed. And with this new achievement, Sophia understood that this journey wasn't just about reaching her own goals, but about showing others that they could do the same. Everything seemed to be finally falling into place for Sophia. She had landed the job of her dreams, her confidence was soaring, and the future that once seemed bleak now shone with possibilities. But, as life often does, an unexpected twist was lurking, ready to test everything she had built. It was on a morning like any other, as she was getting ready for another day of work, that Sophia received a call that would change everything. On the other end of the line, a formal and distant voice informed her that the company where she had just been hired was facing a severe financial crisis. The project she had been assigned to was being cancelled, and with it, her job was also at risk. It was a devastating blow. All the effort, all the achievements seemed to crumble in a matter of seconds. Panic tried to seize her again. That old familiar anxiety tried to creep back into her mind, whispering that maybe she was never good enough. For a moment, Sophia felt the ground open up beneath her feet. She found herself back in that dark place where uncertainties reigned. But this time, something was different. Instead of giving in to despair, Sophia took a deep breath and remembered everything she had learned. She knew that this was just another test, another obstacle to overcome. And most importantly, she knew she had the strength to face it. Instead of waiting for things to get worse, Sophia decided to act. She used the time she had before the company's final decision to prepare, update her portfolio, and reach out to former colleagues and mentors. She knew that no matter what happened, she wouldn't let this setback define her future. When the final news came, confirming that the company would indeed have to cut her position, Sophia was already ready for the next step. And instead of succumbing to failure, she saw it as a new opportunity to start over, to perhaps pursue a path she had never considered before. This twist, which at another time might have destroyed her, now served as fuel for her next adventure. Sophia not only survived the blow, but used this experience to reinvent herself once again, proving to herself that with the right mindset, no challenge is too great to overcome. With the decision made and the loss of her job now a reality, Sophia found herself facing a new and unknown path. But instead of looking at this path with fear, she faced it with curiosity and determination. Sophia knew that the crisis she had gone through was just a chapter in her story, not the end of it. She began to explore new possibilities, new horizons that she had never even considered before. One of those horizons was entrepreneurship, something that had always fascinated her, but until then seemed like a distant dream. Determined to turn adversity into opportunity, Sophia plunged into the world of business. She began researching, attending workshops, and networking with people who had already started their own successful ventures. Each day brought a new lesson, and with each passing day, her excitement grew. What once seemed like an insurmountable challenge now felt like an adventure, a chance to create something truly her own. Sophia realized that losing her job wasn't the end. It was a new beginning, a chance to finally pursue a passion she had kept buried for so long. As she delved deeper into this new venture, Sophia's confidence continued to grow. The skills she had developed in her previous jobs, organization, communication, creativity, were now being applied in ways she had never imagined. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, building a future that was entirely hers. And with each step forward, she felt stronger, more resilient, more in control of her destiny. But it wasn't just about business. Sophia also began to see how her journey could inspire others. She started sharing her experiences, not just the successes, but also the failures. She knew that there were countless people out there facing their own setbacks, their own crises of confidence, and she wanted to show them that it was possible to overcome all of it. That sometimes the greatest opportunities come disguised as the biggest challenges. And so, what began as a personal journey of rebuilding her life turned into something much bigger. Sophia's story began to resonate with people, touching lives in ways she never imagined. She had gone from a place of fear and uncertainty to one of empowerment and inspiration, and through it all, she discovered something truly powerful. That the strength to overcome, to rebuild, to thrive was within her all along, just waiting to be unleashed. As Sophia's new business began to take shape, she realized that she was not only creating something new, but also rebuilding herself. Every decision she made, every calculated risk she took, was a reflection of her growing self-confidence. But this new phase brought with it even greater challenges, tests that would put everything she had learned so far to the test. It was at a critical moment when the business started gaining traction that Sophia encountered an unexpected obstacle. A significant investment opportunity arose, something that could take her venture to a level she had never imagined. However, there was substantial risk involved. To accept this investment, Sophia would need to commit a significant portion of her company, something that made her question everything once again. The fear of failure, which she thought she had overcome, came back to haunt her, whispering that she might be about to lose everything she had built. But instead of succumbing to fear, Sophia remembered her journey up to that point. She knew that true courage wasn't in avoiding fear, but in facing it head-on. Instead of making a hasty decision, Sophia spent days carefully analyzing all the options. She sought advice, listened to stories from other entrepreneurs who had faced similar situations, and most importantly, trusted her intuition, that inner voice that had guided her this far. In the end, Sophia made a decision that for many might have seemed risky, but for her made perfect sense. She decided to accept the investment, but with one condition: she would retain creative control and the vision of the company. For Sophia, this decision wasn't just about money or financial success. It was about staying true to what she believed in, to what inspired her to keep going, even when the path was uncertain. And with this decision, she not only secured the resources needed to expand her business, but also solidified her position as a determined and visionary leader. What followed was a phase of accelerated growth, not only for the company, but also for Sophia as a person. She was now in a position she had never imagined, leading a team, inspiring others, and seeing her ideas come to life in ways that once seemed impossible. And although the challenges continued to arise, Sophia knew that with each new obstacle, she was only getting stronger, more prepared for whatever came next. Her story, which began with uncertainties and fears, was now transforming into a shining example of how resilience and self-confidence can not only change a life, but also impact the world around you. In time, Sophia's business became more than she ever could have imagined. What started as a response to a personal crisis evolved into a thriving company and, more importantly, a source of inspiration for many. Sophia proved that with determination, courage, and unwavering faith in oneself, it is possible to turn even the greatest challenges into opportunities for growth and success. But Sophia's true legacy wasn't just in the business success she achieved, it was in the lives she touched along the way. Her story of overcoming spread, and people began to seek her out, not just for business advice, but to understand how she managed to transform her life so radically. And that's when Sophia realized something profound. Her true mission was to help others find their own inner strength, to discover that even in the darkest moments, there is a light that can guide them out of the darkness. She began to share her journey more widely, writing, speaking, and showing the world that no matter how difficult the path may be, transformation is always possible. Now, as she looks back, Sophia doesn't just see the difficult moments, but rather the steps that led her to become the person she is today, a leader, an entrepreneur, an inspiration to all who face their own battles. Her journey teaches us that true success isn't measured solely by external achievements, but by internal growth, by the ability to overcome fears and embrace change with confidence and courage. And so, Sophia's story reaches a point of reflection. What can you learn from her journey? Are you ready to face your own challenges head-on, just as she did? The power to transform your life is, and always has been, within you. Believe in it just as Sophia did, and you too can achieve what once seemed impossible. If this story touched you in any way, if you feel it awakened something inside you, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future stories. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it today and leave your comment below. Tell us which moment of Sophia's journey resonated with you the most. Remember, together, we can create a community of people who believe in the power of transformation. See you next time.